Learn more and register today at wastecon.org. It is my pleasure to welcome Alita Kane, the Community Program Manager for the Recycling Partnership, to start us off.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Getting all set over here with my screen share. Awesome. Now, hopefully everyone is seeing this beautiful recycling partnership slide. If you, for some reason, are not, shout it out in the chat and let us know. But I will assume that everyone is, and we'll keep moving forward. I am going to introduce myself a bit more. I do want to take an opportunity to first introduce our organization, the Recycling Partnership. For those of you who aren't familiar, we are a national nonprofit, and we work hand in hand with communities and companies to improve the recycling system. We do this through a number of ways, and one of them is granting communities to improve their recycling programs on the ground, like the programs that you're going to hear about today. We also take a systems approach to improving recycling. So in addition to those grants that go to communities, we have grants that go to MRFs to improve processing, and we work with those companies to improve product packaging as well. All of this work is done thanks to our funding partners that you see here. And so we have many folks who are interested in seeing the recycling stream succeed and seeing recycling improve. So a little bit about me. I am a community program manager. I came from the city of Tampa, where I was managing the recycling program and have been in this recycling space for about 6 years now. So not quite a veteran, but I feel like I am getting my footing and getting an understanding of it. There's still lots to learn. And as a community program manager, I work to implement those grants, which is how I got to meet both the lovely Christina and Jessica, who you're hearing from today. And I will let them do the honors of introducing themselves a little more when they come on to tell you about those programs. I know that's enough details about me. That's all you really need to know for today's webinar. So let's dig in to what we're all here to talk about, which is feet on the street. What exactly is feet on the street? What does that mean? This name really came organically because it was something that we do. We put feet literally out on the street to improve recycling. It's a systematic approach that we have to fighting contamination, and it provides curbside feedback to the resident that is really tailored to what is in their recycling cart to encourage the right behavior and actually see behavior change take place. Now, there's many elements of this program that I believe make it successful. One of them is that it's a blend of operations and education. So often in our programs, we're focused on education and communications, but we really need to think about how that fits into the daily operations that's happening in the field to blend these things together so that we're all working towards that common goal of cleaning up the recycling stream. And this program is designed to do that. So it also opens the communication channels between your operations and your education teams, which I think is such a strong pillar. Again, the curbside feedback, also key. The resident is seeing what's in their recycling cart and how that specific item is causing harm to the stream. So it's unique to them, and they're receiving it in a location where their recycling behavior takes place. So why should we clean up recycling? Well, it's contaminated. I'm not sure if any of y'all know that, but we have, contamination rates across the nation that vary significantly from community to community, causing just a burden on the system. And ultimately, I'm willing to guess that most of you here understand contamination. Maybe you're brand new to this recycling world, and if so, great, there's lots here for you to learn. Hopefully, contamination is something you've been introduced to. But when you're thinking about that, we know that we can't bring contaminated loads to the MRF, right? So we know we need to clean up recycling for that reason. We know that maybe we've gotten rejected loads or our MRF contract is requiring it. But I think something that we can lose sight of and is really important here is that contamination is a problem because when it is in the recycling stream, recycling just doesn't work the way it should. So recycling is intended to replace raw materials to go into manufacturing. And when it's contaminated, this can't happen. And instead, it burdens the system. So it's no longer working efficiently, and we're no longer getting the positive impacts that we want from recycling. So even if your MRF was accepting material previously that had contamination in it, and now you're just trying to struggle to get them to accept your material, or we all have had to change our climate due to the things happening in China. The reality is, it's not just those forces that are causing this need for change. The system wasn't working with contamination at any time when it was in there. It has to be a clean stream to be efficient and see the positive impacts that we want from recycling. So just always remember that. Now, we know why we want to clean it up. And we want to know, how does this Feet on the Street program work? You're going to get more details, again, from the two communities you have here, but let me give you a high-level overview. There are multiple elements. First, you need to inform stakeholders. Second, you need to make sure those communications are in place. 3, you got to get out, get the feet on the street and get it done. And 4, hopefully you're measuring and sharing the success of the program. Who do you want to inform? It's going to be a series of people, anywhere from your decision makers, frontline staff, and your residents. And then how are those communications going to work, and what are they going to look like? So you want communications that include a mailer going to residents, those tags, that curbside feedback happening, what we call an OOPS tag, can include both a rejection and a warning tag, and a top issue mailer. So as you're out there and seeing what's in those recycling carts, you now also have the knowledge of what your top contaminant is. And you can use that knowledge to educate specifically on it to those residents, making it really powerful. We're really focused on curbside feet on the street today, but I do want to mention that this program can be implemented as well for drop-off. So if you have a lot of drop-off programs within your community, feel free to reach out. We do have resources for this. Now, how does this look actually on the ground and getting out there? Well, you have inspectors checking carts. If a cart is found to be contaminated, they might receive a warning or a rejection, depending on how many previous occurrence they have of this. The resident receives that communication directly on their cart, letting them know what was in there and guiding them to the right place to find more information about what can be recycled. And then you want to track those tagging occurrences, and this can be done via application, or it can be done in a traditional method, just a spreadsheet out there in the field with a good old clipboard. We do have an application that the Recycling Partnership has been utilizing in a lot of their programs and are seeing success with it. There will be more information to come about that as that application becomes readily available. And you also need to decide what your tolerance is going to be for contamination. So this is what a tag looks like with those contaminants on it. It's important to know, are you going to allow 2 plastic bags when you have inspections taking place before a resident would receive a tag? Are they going to be able to have, maybe just a little bit of shredded paper? Or do you have 0 tolerance for any of this contamination? Determining those policies and protocols and making sure that all of your inspection staff are utilizing the same ones and you have consistency is very important. And then you have your measurement. Now you want to measure both the improvements of your recycling stream and also hopefully an improvement in seeing more recycling in that stream come out of your trash. You can do this with a capture rate study and working with several consultants out there who do these capture rate studies. This is achievable. There are all sorts of other ways if you don't have the funds to do a full sort or capture rate study to measure. And one of them would be the data that you have coming in through those in-field observations. But if you do capture rate studies, again, great way to get this done. It's also really fun to see what's in your stream. So what is this going to cost you? Well, these programs can run from $2 to $5. It really depends on a lot of variables. Like, what are your local printing costs? Postage costs are basically the same for most. What are you using to track the in-field data? How many pieces of communication do you want to go out? And the biggest thing, who are you hiring to do this? Is it going to be a consultant, or are you going to hire within? So all of those elements can change the price per household, but it's also important to remember that while you are spending money on this program, you often spend money on other educations throughout the year. So think about it as redirecting those funds into a program like this so that you can get real success and real measurable success. Additionally, that cleaning up your stream is going to have a positive impact, hopefully, on your reimbursements or a reduction in contamination costs, really bringing in the ROI for the program, which is your return on investment. When it comes to talking to local leadership, talking ROI is music to their ears. So remember that as well. Now we have implemented Feet on the Street in many communities across the nation. And you're going to hear from two of those communities today. I want to go over a few lessons learned from other communities as well. So this is looking at Feet on the Street in Ohio, where we have actually worked with several communities. And one lesson learned is that this can be done in all different sizes communities with all different dynamics. And the range and reduction of contamination can also change. Another lesson learned is we do not see a reduction in set out rates because of tagging rates. So just because we're getting out there and tagging recycling carts and rejecting them does not mean it's discouraging folks to putting their recycling cart out for collection, which is really great news. And rejection works. So if you're going to do a program like this, ensure that you're able to reject those carts at the curb, meaning not collect a cart that has contamination found in it, especially contamination found in it after several occurrences. In a community in Massachusetts, we compared rejection versus non-rejection, and what we saw was that there's a 45% decrease in tagging when rejection was in place and only a 22 without it. And then not only does this clean up your recycling stream, but hopefully it also brings positive results to increasing the tonnage of your recycling stream. And this happens because one, you're getting education out there, and two, you're freeing up some recycling for processing, hopefully letting folks know that they cannot bag their recycling, which is one of the biggest issues that we see in the stream. So that is an overview, and now you're going to get to hear details from a program that has implemented this and actually did so very recently as a pilot program. And I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Christina from the City of Tucson.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to share my screen. And here. Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Alita. I'm Christina Paulsgrove, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Tucson's Environmental and General Services Department. I also am acting as the Recycling Manager. I've been with the city in this department for almost 17 years now and have learned a lot. And I think learned that education around recycling is probably one of the most in demand issues that we have. People are always interested in it. They want to know more. They want to do better. So I think, the Feet on the Street program was just so helpful to us because it really did show us that. So we applied for a grant from the Recycling Partnership in 2019 and got notification. And of course, we were getting ready to start and the pandemic started. So we weren't able to start the program until March of this year. We have been doing curbside recycling for our population of 142,000 households since 2002. And over the last few years, our contamination rate has been about 30%, which was just way too high. It was costing us, after the China National Sword went into effect, we saw that our excess residue fee was anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 a month. So when Alita says, you can get a return on investment by reducing your contamination rate, that's very evident in this program. For the program, we decided we were going to monitor about 25,000 homes and look to reduce contamination by about 50%. We chose routes randomly, but we looked at routes where they would be good routes. We looked at average, and then we looked at ones that we knew from drivers were pretty bad. We didn't want to target any one in particular. So we had 3 different routes for each day. We went to every other week recycling in 2019. And so we actually did the program over 8 weeks, which was the 4 service days. We did a pre and post sort to get baseline information. And we found that our recycling contamination rate was about 26% in that pre-sort. We don't have field inspectors in our program already. So we worked with our local partner, Tucson Clean and Beautiful, and we hired temps. So we hired 10 inspectors, and we did have 3 internal field supervisors who were the supervisors out on the street. So they were there to help with any issues that might have come up in the field, any questions from the inspectors, and also to talk with residents if they came out and wanted to know more about what was happening. And that was good for a couple of reasons. The supervisors are really knowledgeable, but then it also allowed the inspectors to continue their work. And then we had about 3 people internally who were providing support to the program, generating the reports every day. One of the things we did, because we were tagging, but we also have a process where when we had somebody get tagged, we followed up with a letter that went out to them directly from the city, letting them know that they needed to take care of the issue of contamination and that they could be removed from the program if it continued. So we actually had 3 tags that we were giving out. The oops with the red was the rejection tag. The oops yellow was just a warning. And then we removed glass from our curbside program. in February of 2021. So we had a tag that just told them about taking the glass to one of our drop-off sites. We did not give anybody a rejection for that or a warning. We just wanted to remind them that glass was no longer accepted in the program, and we only gave that out if glass was the only issue in their cart aside from clean recycling. So I think overall we were incredibly happy with the results that we saw. The tagging rates, the first pass, we had 44% of the inspections were given warning tags. And that dropped continually to 18%, which was, just a huge reduction in the tagging. And we saw similar reductions in the rejection tags as well. For contamination, we did have a consultant do the pre-sort and the post-sort. And our pre-sort again showed us, we were about 26%. And then the post-sort showed us we dropped to 18.5%, which was significant, but it also was really critical for us because with our contract, if we have contamination below 18.7%, it takes away that excess residue fee. So being able to get our contamination rate down below 18.7, if we could implement this citywide and achieve that goal, we would be able to save 25 to 30,000 a month, and that would more than pay for this program. So the market value, as Alita said, not only are you saving money from your excess residue, but you look at the value of those clean recyclables, and what we saw was that it would increase from $194 a ton to $230 a ton, which is significant. It's also good news for the MRF, but it's been good for the city as well. Our whole goal, as Alita has said, we want to provide the MRFs with clean recycling. That material does need to be clean in order to be good feedstock. And so being able to increase the value per ton is really important. And I think we've all seen just recently how the value and of the markets is really important. I know that markets have been on the increase, and it's made a huge difference in our monthly processing costs. Okay. Of course, anytime you do something new, people get a little out of, it's just new, it's not familiar to them. We had residents that, weren't happy. They saw that this was an invasion of privacy, which, it really isn't. The inspectors were great. They were really positive. They were very knowledgeable. They all had a really good handle on what was recyclable, what was not, why, how they could explain to residents. A lot of residents came out. This happened, as I said, in spring of 2021. A lot of people were still working from home. And so, it was just different having people out on the street looking in their bins. So a lot of people came out to talk to them, find out what they were doing. And I would say that as a whole, those interactions were really positive. People wanted to know more. They were really happy to get more information and to hear about why what they were doing was important. So we did see a little bit of a set out rate decrease toward the end, but only in a couple of areas. I think for the most part, we saw pretty significant increases in the quality of the recycling that we were taking in. The inspectors certainly saw it. I mean, just from anecdotally, from hearing from them, they saw a big difference in the quality of the recycling. And so that, and you know, and all of the data that we got supported that. I think that most residents really do want to recycle. They want to recycle the right things. I mean, part of the issues we've all seen with wish cycling is because people want to recycle as much as they can, and they just need more information about how they can do it correctly. So I think that one of the things we learned, we've had this 3 strikes you're out program in our statutes, in our ordinances in the city for as long as I can remember, but we never had the staff to do it. It was also not as high a priority because, you know, for the last, 15 years, we were getting checks every month. As the China National Sword went into effect, the contamination really impacted our costs every month. And so we were looking for ways that we could improve that. And all the education we've done over the years has been good. It's been well received, but it hasn't been as far reaching as this program. I think what we showed is that, by implementing this kind of a program permanently, we will be able to achieve the contamination reductions that we want. And that goal, of course, would be to reduce our contamination below at least 18.7%. We know it's going to take a while, but I think it's well worth it. And this was such a valuable program because all of the data is there to support it. And then, I think what we want to do is really look to implementing this as a permanent program for ourselves. And that is it. Are there any questions?
We haven't seen questions come in yet, or I haven't. I don't know if there might be some coming into the Q&A, and we will definitely cover those after Jessica comes on here and talks a little bit about her program in Orange County. So I'll let you screen share and take it from there.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm really excited to share with you the work Orange County has been doing with Feet on the Street. We call it the Recycling Quality Improvement Program, or RQIP for short. A little bit about me: I actually started as a college intern with Orange County Utilities. So I've been there oh my goodness, almost 7 years since. So I've been involved with recycling and education pretty much since I started. So this program has been a really exciting evolution in our recycling education. More about Orange County. We are a large county with over 1.4 million residents. In 2016, we made the popular transition from dual stream recycling with the bins that you can see here to single stream recycling in the 95-gallon carts. So the over 220,000 homes that we service in unincorporated Orange County received a blue lid 95-gallon cart for recycling and a green lid cart for garbage, and garbage collection was reduced from twice per week to once per week, and recycling remained at once per week. So while there are certainly benefits to the single stream cart collection, of course, we did see an increase in both volume and contamination with that transition. And one of the immediate obvious reasons is that pretty simple, that the drivers just can't see anymore what people are setting out. So that proved to be a bit of a challenge. And we've been recycling in Orange County since 1990. And we've been sending out newsletters and postcards and social media and everything. But it was clear that those traditional methods of outreach were no longer going to work in reducing this contamination. So this is a map of Orange County. It's divided into 5 collection zones that are serviced by 3 contracted haulers. The outlines that you can see are actually all of the recycle routes, and the ones that are colored in are routes that have been impacted so far by RQIP, that they've been tagged, and we've tagged over 110,000 homes since we started the Feet on the Street in 2018. So this is also, by the way, an ongoing program. We're currently tagging 5,000 homes per month as a regular continuation of the program. So we started out with a couple of pilots, and once we sort of refined the program, we brought on board, we put out a competitive bid, an RFP for to hire a firm to actually do the tagging and manage, the temps and everything like that. So we hired MSW consultants to do that field work. So obviously our program was designed around the recycling partnerships Feet on the Street. So 1 week prior to going into an area, we'll send out a postcard. And this postcard gives residents a heads up that we're going to be in the neighborhood, what we're doing there, and a reminder about what is recyclable. We designed it 4 passes for each home. So each phase, as we call it, will be 4 consecutive weeks. So we'll visit each household on that list 4 times. So the cart monitors will give a quick scan of the contents of the cart, and based on what they see, they'll leave either an oops tag if there's room for improvement, or a great job tag for positive reinforcement. In our program, we have it so that a single piece of plastic bag, film, or wrap warrants an oops tag. And the reason for that being, it's so common and so detrimental to the recycling system that we kind of just have that one strike for plastic bags, film, and wrap. Otherwise, residents can have 2 to 3 incorrect items in there. So everyone will get 1 warning. And then after that, if there continues to be contamination in the cart will be rejected. It will not be serviced by the driver. And then data is collected through smartphones that with a tagging specific software. So it's really quick and easy. We track certain categories of contamination in there, as well as the tagging history will populate. And that makes it really quick and efficient, because during the pilots, we were using pen and paper, not as fun. The app is really great. And these are our tags. They've gone through a few transformations as we've gotten feedback from residents, which is another great thing about this program, is it really encourages people to call, which is a good thing overall. But you can see it's very heavily visual based, and all the monitor has to do, if it's an oops, is just circle the category of contamination or write it in, and they attach that to the handle of the cart. So what did we find out? So before outreach, just 4 out of 10 carts were clean. And after outreach, we had 7 out of 10 carts were clean. There was a 42% reduction in carts with plastic bags, film, or wrap. And overall, actually in every single route we've tagged, bags and wrap have been the #1 contaminating item. So that 42% reduction is huge. Also a 13% reduction in contamination by weight. And 47% of carts with contaminants showed improved recycling behaviors from week 1 to week 4. So I wanted to take a second to touch upon the customer reaction. Overall, it's positive. It's been positive. We out in the field, once in a while you'll get someone angry and someone upset, but that's where, proper training for your cart monitors comes in, so they know how to handle those interactions. But actually, as we have done the program, through the months and through the years, we've really seen a decrease in calls and interactions in the field, as people sort of just have gotten accustomed to seeing us out there and are talking about it on Nextdoor and they see it on social media. So something we learned from the Feet on the Street that we did not know before was our participation and set out rate. And we actually learned that our participation rate is very strong at 87%. So your participation rate means the percentage of households that set out at least once during that 4-week period. And then set out is the percentage of carts set out on any given day. So that's around 60%, which is pretty good. And having this strong participation rate is great, because that means when we're going out into a neighborhood, we are reaching a majority of the households that are getting the tags and getting that personalized feedback. So here we have a diagram that actually shows the journey of over 63,000 households that were tagged. So at the top, you'll see the green are folks that got a great job tag. Their recycling was clean the first time that they set out. And you can see as it moves along, green, green, green. So that tells us that 8% of all carts set out every week with no contamination. So these are like our superstar recyclers. And then you can see some folks got a great job the first time they set out, but then unfortunately they backslid, but most of them went and improved again. And then you can see the yellow at the bottom, that 58% were those who got that warning tag the first time they set out. And some of them improved and some of them did not. So really what this tells us is that most residents, like 90% of them, are either doing it well already, or B, will do it well, that they just need some education. And that's reflected into the fact that they only needed 1 or 2 tags to improve behavior. And then there's about 10% of households that unfortunately the RQIP does not seem to impact them, that they will continue to set out contaminated carts. They either just don't care. Actually, most likely they just do not care. So unfortunately, that small percentage, we realize it makes a really big impact on the quality of the loads, because, all these routes are mixed together. There's 2,000 plus homes on a route. And it only really takes a few bad apples. So really, really interesting stuff here. And so in addition to the data that we get from actually being out in the fields and at the individual household level, we also conducted composition studies before and after one of the stages of tagging. And I believe the stage that we did this for was about, I want to say 40,000 homes. So before, you can see that there was 45% contamination by weight, and that was reduced to 22% on average based on 22% post the tagging of that stage. And we also saw an increase in paper, the composition of paper in the stream. So really, really strong improvement. We did also observe, however, that once we leave a neighborhood, oftentimes the progress will backslide. So we are currently examining different options for how do we maintain the strong results that we see when we're actually out there tagging. And so potentially from those 10% of residents that do not improve, do we take away their carts? Do we need to, how do we focus more attention on moving them up to where it's not negatively impacting the whole stream? And that's about all that I have. I was quick. I talk fast.
You did amazing. It was so much wonderful information from both of you ladies. And honestly, for me, this is my first time getting to see Jessica and Christina present on their programs. I got to work with them hand in hand as they were implementing them. So can't tell you how fun it is to see you present on it and get to share your stories with all of those on the call today. We do have some questions that came in. So I want to, let's get to this one first. One of the questions, which I think was really great to hear, was, questioning about how the rejected material was handled and if the contamination was moved. And so a specific question they wanted to know if when you found contamination in a cart, did you move it out of the cart and I guess leave it for the resident to see in either cases?
We did instruct the inspectors not to do that, but some of them did. If they saw a greasy pizza box, they would pull it out and set it on the curb. But if it was pretty nasty contamination, no, they left it and just did the rejection.
Yeah, it was the same in our community as well. We didn't, for safety reasons and just practicality reasons, we didn't want them really touching anything in the cart. There were some instances if the resident is home and they have time, they can, we'll go through the cart with them and sort of be like, hey, you gotta get rid of this, gotta get rid of this. But yeah, overall, they wouldn't touch anything unless it was to lift up a piece of cardboard that was strategically placed on top, covering everything. Because people got really smart with trying to hide contamination.
Yeah. And I will say from TRP's perspective of the program, leaving the contamination and having the resident deal with it is really important so that they are seeing the thing that contaminated their cart because it's on the tag, and then they're having to deal with the thing that contaminated their cart because they have to do something with that rejected material. And that brings up the next question, which was, what do you do with the rejected material? And so I'll let either of you ladies answer how you handled it in your program.
We would have the garbage truck pick it up as garbage.
So we have contract haulers, so it's a little more difficult to coordinate, the trucks and everything. So unfortunately, the rejected carts got collected, not the rejected carts. They would have to clean it up. But yeah, the contaminated loads just get loaded up at the transfer station and brought to the landfill.
Right. So the carts that received a warning and were not receiving a rejection, therefore not getting collected, they went into the stream that time, but the next time they were rejected. And I think that was the same for your team, right, Christina? Like the first time, unfortunately, yes. You guys, because you handle your own collection, were able to have garbage collect, but then next time it was literally the resident had to manage what they were doing, which meant really taking out the contamination and putting it back out for collection.
Yes.
All right, and more, I love all these questions coming in. So another one, how many inspectors, oh, now you're asking us to do math here. How many inspectors do you have per number of residents? And so roughly, I think you can both throw out, your number of I don't know if it's the number of residents or you probably want to go with number of households here.
Mhm.
That's what you would really base your program off of. And roughly how many inspectors you have per the number of households you were inspecting as part of that program.
Most of our routes averaged about 800 homes. Some had a little more, some had a little less, but that was what we looked for.
And then, so you had about 800 homes on a route. And I think you all worked with, was it 6 to 8 inspectors? I think I might be off, but
We had 10.
10. So 10 inspectors, and those 10 inspectors went through that route. And then overall, the program covered how many households?
It was close to 23,000.
So about 10 inspectors for 23,000. And for you, Jessica?
Yeah, so each phase sort of varied. We've done anywhere from 4,500 per phase up to, oh my gosh, I think we got up to 14,000, where we had like 6 inspectors out there. But normally we find that we need 4 inspectors to do about 1,000 homes per day. And they work in
Yeah.
teams of 2.
Yeah, and I will say that's one thing you really start when we are breaking down the number of inspectors needed. It's hard to guess what that number is going to be just based on your household count. You almost have to break it down to what your daily and weekly is going to look like to determine who needs to be out there in the field. And one thing that we do have at TRP is a feet on the street calculator that can help calculate this. So if you're interested, happy to look at that with you and walk through that. And of course, you'll have my email. So feel free to reach out. All right. What else do we have here? I want to make sure I'm covering everyone's questions. The software that you use, Jessica, so definitely have several questions about that application. You wanted to speak to the application you used and how you were able to access it.
Sure. So yeah, it was developed by Rubicon. And I believe, yeah, we were sort of, I want to say we were sort of guinea pigs for it. It's not necessarily tagging specific software, but they sort of tailored this system to really work for us, so that we upload, about a month before, we upload the list of addresses, and that way, it's populated into the smartphone. And so they can see, on a map, exactly which households they need to visit. And it's also populated with the historical data, so they can quickly see, oh, hey, this house got an oops tag last week. So if there's contamination again, it's going to be rejected. So yeah, we went through, and we're still using Rubicon.
Thanks, Jessica. Again, I will mention TRP has been working with Recyclist to develop an app and has been also testing that with communities like we did in Tucson. We do not have the app yet readily available though for all communities to use. Another question that we had come in for Tucson, did you foresee hiring permanent employees to complete the inspection? So, this was a pilot, you saw success, you really want to continue it for the city. What do you think that would look like for staffing?
I think that we would hope to hire probably 4 people. And I think one of the things that we talk about internally is, you need to send the inspectors out first thing in the morning when people set out their recycling so it can be checked before the trucks get there. But we definitely have some other issues that it would be so beneficial for us to have inspectors who could also look at, cans left at the curb after service, and because we do get complaints about things like that. And so we definitely would have enough work for them to do full time.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great idea, bringing in those inspectors within the solid waste department, specifically to handle the many things that solid waste faces, including recycling contamination. We got some more questions coming in. Another one's for you, Jessica. Does Orange County use pay to throw for garbage?
No, we do not. It's residents are billed annually on a non-ad valorem tax assessment. So yeah, just a flat fee for everything for the year.
Yeah, and I will say we have worked with another community who did have more of a pay as you throw model. And that was an additional challenge in having contamination in the recycling stream for folks who were using that to get out of the pay as you throw model for trash. So we have seen it implemented, and I can't remember the name of the community off the top of my head, but if you're really interested, happy to have you follow up and connect you with them. Another question came in. Did the staff inspect recycling only, or organics and garbage too?
Just recycling.
Yeah, just recycling for Orange County as well.
I love the idea of us moving to organics. TRP has not yet implemented it in a community that with organics, but I really do like that idea. Now, Christina, you showed those glass tags and all of the tags that you had, and I know Tucson recently transitioned from curbside glass collection to drop-off glass collection, and that was part of what you were educating on in this program. Can you speak specifically to the changes in the glass stream that you saw while doing this program?
We definitely saw a reduction in the glass that was collected at the curb. Of course, some people are still putting it in, and it is still getting recycled by our processor. But the drop-off glass that we collect is incredibly clean. It's a much better feedstock, and we are looking to use it locally. We're looking to make it available to some entrepreneurs who are doing things with sustainable materials. And we actually are probably collecting more glass now between the two than we did before.
That's great. And so there was a reduction in the glass tags that you used. A resident didn't get a rejection for, or even like really a warning. It was more, you have glass in your cart. Let's use this opportunity to educate, since y'all recently went through the transition. We didn't want to reject for it yet. Just another opportunity, since you have folks out there, they're checking carts, and it's a place to educate residents. We have seen in the past, you asked the question about checking garbage, and we have seen in the past where if someone isn't setting out a recycling cart and we have inspectors going around, we've utilized that opportunity to let them know on the garbage cart that they can get a recycling cart and participate in the program. So again, just you're out there, it's another touch point for your residents. Got another question coming in here. So their community is changing waste haulers and have concerns about contamination policies. Could a program like this help with the transition? Well, Jessica, I'll let you speak to your experience, because you use many waste haulers in Orange County. I think it's like 5 that you have, and I know Christina knew it is city managed collection. So maybe you can speak to the experience you've had in working with your waste haulers on this Feet on the Street program.
Yeah, so yeah, we have 3 haulers for 5 zones. And I'm not gonna lie, it was totally a challenge to coordinate, the tagging with the 3 different service haulers. But really, communication is key with that. We even brought on board a full-time customer service field representative whose job is to keep in contact continuously with the cart monitoring team, as well as the exact driver that is going to be servicing the route that day. We found it wasn't enough to just email the supervisors. It's like, no, you got to get the driver's phone number and who's driving that truck and give them maps ahead of time. So it's really just a lot of extra. You got to do a little bit more coordination and communication for sure than if, you're handling the collection yourself.
Yeah, and I know a lot of advanced communication too. So making sure they were on board with the program before it happened, because ultimately, if you don't have their buy-in, really can't implement a program like this. And I think one thing, if you are looking at obtaining a new waste hauler, it's important to think about what that contract is going to look like and how it's going to cover recycling education. And will they work with you in a program like this? So you're well positioned, since you haven't brought them on yet, and hopefully you're still in the contract phase. You're well positioned to make sure you cover things like that in your contract and make sure they will work with you, because ultimately you need them in the process to see a cleaner stream, and they should also have a self-interest in seeing that cleaner stream. And I'm going to actually just drop in the chat here a link to TRPs. We have contract guidance, and this is really for MRFs, but I think it can apply to haulers. So it's a great tool if you're renegotiating your contract. And looks like we got a response there too from another community who worked with a contract hauler. That's excellent. Now, one of the core differences between these two programs is staffing. So Tucson, you were able to utilize hiring staffing and bringing them in, and Orange County, you just haven't had that ability. You haven't had as many team members, and you brought in a consultant to do this. And so I'd love, in the last few minutes we have, just Christina, you talk about some of the benefits you had to having staffing set up that way, and Jessica, talk about some of the benefits you had to having staffing set up the way you have it.
Mm-hmm.
We were really fortunate to be able to work with our partner, Tucson Clean and Beautiful, because they were able to do the temp hiring and get it all done very quickly. The reason I think why we would go with permanent employees and implementing this full time, we had so many good interactions with the inspectors. And I think having that contact with them pretty much daily was really important. They felt like they were really part of our team, and developed some good relationships.
Yeah, we felt that hiring a consulting firm and sort of outsourcing the labor management was the best course for Orange County, especially given how big it is and how spread out and how many households there are, and especially when it comes to bringing on the temps and everything. So MSW Consultants has done a great job with coordinating the labor and the training and the data analysis and everything. And that way, us folks at the county can focus on more of the bigger picture stuff and, moving the program and evolving the program. So yeah, that's really worked for us.
That's great. And they've also provided, I think, some analysis. So giving you a handle on not only the data you have coming in, because that's one thing, you're looking at the data at face value, but then also analyzing it at a deeper level, right, to see what trends look like in that data set.
And with that RFP, we didn't just include the field tagging labor, we included other things that we thought might be useful, like even composition studies are included in that RFP, and focus groups. So just a number of different things in there as well.
Great. And I know we're at time, and I'm so happy to say that we have almost all of our participants still on. So it's really exciting that everyone is hungry for this information. Contact is in the decks, and I know this will be shared. And if anybody is looking to reach me, you can also go to the Recycling Partnerships webpage. So excited to always talk Feet on the Street. So please reach out. I'm happy to do it. And I will provide, Swana, if you have any closing remarks, if you want to jump on with those.
Thank you so much for everyone for participating. Thank you, Alita, for running our webinar today. I just want to remind everyone that your CEUs are automatic with your registration, so you should see them on your Swana account. It's still not too late to register for WasteCon, and the website was put into the chat earlier today during this. So this will be available for everyone who's registered probably next week. And thank you all so much for your time and for registering for this webinar. And everybody have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks all.